In the 1920s, Hollywood created a devastating lie about the black experience, projecting racist stereotypes onto screens across the nation. But one man refused to accept the narrative. He was an entrepreneur, a novelist, and a pioneer who would build an entire industry outside the white establishment. He controlled the camera, the budget, the distribution, and the message. His name was Oscar Micheaux, and this is the story of the relentless visionary who created the first independent black cinema and gave a community its own voice. Oscar Devereux Micheaux was born in 1884 in Metropolis, Illinois. He was the fifth of 13 children, descended from former enslaved people. Like many ambitious young black men of the era, he left the South seeking opportunity, eventually settling in Chicago. Micheaux worked various jobs, from shoeshine boy to Pullman porter, a role that gave him invaluable experience traveling the nation, observing diverse black communities, and learning about distribution and logistics firsthand. He absorbed the stories and dialects that would later fill his novels and films. Inspired by the promise of land ownership, Micheaux moved to South Dakota and became one of the few African Americans to successfully establish a homestead. The struggles and triumphs of his years as a farmer formed the basis for his first major literary work. Unable to secure a publisher, Micheaux shrewdly decided to become his own publisher. He traveled tirelessly, selling his book, The Conquest, the story of a Negro pioneer, directly to readers. He learned to control his product from conception to consumption, a lesson that would define his film career. In 1915, America was captivated by D.W. Griffith's film, The Birth of a Nation. Though technically brilliant, the film was a vile piece of propaganda that glorified the Ku Klux Klan and depicted black men as savage beasts. Its cultural damage was immense. For Micheaux and many others, this film was a call to arms. They realized that in the 20th century, cinema was power. If white America would not finance stories that depicted black life with complexity, dignity, and ambition, then black America must do it for itself. A film company bought the rights to adapt Micheaux's book, The Homesteader. When they tried to alter the story to feature a sensational racist ending, Micheaux broke ties and resolved to make the film himself. In 1919, Oscar Micheaux became the first African American to produce a feature film. The silent movie The Homesteader was a direct response to the racist portrayals of Hollywood. It featured complex, aspirational black characters struggling with universal themes of success, romance, and injustice. Micheaux operated entirely outside the established system, building his own film company, the Micheaux Film and Book Company. This meant he was responsible for everything: raising money, writing the script, directing, producing, and developing the prints. To finance his films, he often used a subscription model, selling stock directly to members of the black community. He was a master fundraiser, using his charm, reputation, and bold vision to convince small investors to fund his artistic dreams. Hollywood had a monopoly on theaters, but Micheaux found his own distribution network. He focused on race films, movies made for and primarily shown to black audiences in independent theaters, churches, social halls, and roadshow tents. He personally managed the roadshow circuit, traveling with his own prints, hiring musicians, and securing venues, a logistical feat as challenging as any of the freedom rides that would come decades later. He was a pioneer of independent distribution. Micheaux's films were revolutionary because they showed African Americans as complex human beings. His characters were lawyers, doctors, entrepreneurs, and artists, grappling with issues of class, identity, and passing, topics mainstream cinema ignored. His most famous film, Within Our Gates, 1920, was a direct response to the birth of a nation. It included a devastating scene depicting the brutal reality of lynching, offering a raw, unfiltered perspective on American violence. The boldness of his stories often led to intense battles with white censorship boards, which tried to ban his films under the guise of morality. They objected to his depictions of interracial romance, social inequality, and black urban life. Micheaux fought back, often creatively editing his films just enough to pass censorship boards. or sometimes simply showing the original cut in independent black theaters where state authorities had less reach. He was an uncompromising fighter for artistic freedom. When talkies arrived in the late 1920s, many early filmmakers collapsed under the massive cost of new equipment. Micheaux, ever the survivor, adapted. He continued his relentless output, releasing The Exile, 1931, one of the first sound features by a black director. Though his later films were often criticized for technical flaws, a side effect of his tight budgets and furious production schedule, he maintained the integrity of his narratives, never compromising his vision for Hollywood cash. Between 1919 and 1948, Oscar Micheaux wrote, produced, and directed over 40 feature films, an astonishing feat of independent production. He discovered and mentored many early black acting talents, creating an entire ecosystem of black cinema professionals. He was a true titan, a one-man studio whose output and control rivaled any contemporary studio head. But his focus was not on wealth or fame, it was on the vital task of reclaiming the narrative. Micheaux often found himself in philosophical tension with the black intelligentsia. Critics sometimes argued that his complex, often unflattering depictions of colorism and class struggles within the black community were too critical. Micheaux defended his work fiercely, arguing that the black audience deserved the same complexity, the same flawed heroes, and the same range of storytelling that white audiences enjoyed. He believed the path to equality demanded seeing oneself fully, warts and all. After World War II, the race film industry declined as mainstream Hollywood tentatively began to integrate. Micheaux was largely forgotten by the wider public for decades. However, his legacy endures. Today, he is recognized as a foundational figure in American cinema. He received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame decades after his death, a fitting, if delayed, tribute to the man who forced America to look at black life through a truthful lens. Oscar Micheaux was more than a filmmaker, he was an entrepreneur of imagination. He understood that true freedom requires controlling your own story. His life proves that with enough vision, courage, and relentless business acumen, an individual can build an empire strong enough to counter any entrenched power. He paved the way for every independent filmmaker, every black director, and every diverse narrative on screen today. He did not ask for a seat at the table. He built his own studio. Oscar Micheaux's strategic genius and artistic courage changed cinema forever. If you were captivated by the journey of this independent visionary, please like this video and subscribe to Lives in Time. Your support helps us uncover the vital, untold stories of innovators who shaped our culture. Click the notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive.